What kind of person declares a man's private pond his sanctuary, his slice of peace, community property without so much as a handshake? The kind who storms into your life like a tornado, leaving nothing but chaos and a smug grin. That was Karen, the new HOA president. All 300 pounds of her, striding across my lawn like she owned it. Her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I was out by my trout pond that morning, the water glinting under the September sun, fish darting like silver dreams beneath the surface. It was my haven, built with my own hands after years of saving. A half-acre of quiet on my 5-acre plot just outside town. The deed was clear, mine. All mine. But Karen didn't care about deeds. She cared about power. This pond, she'd said, jabbing a finger at the water like it had personally offended her, is a community asset now. HOA voted. It's for everyone. I stood there, pole in hand, staring at her, my heart pounding like a drum. The audacity. The nerve. My pond, where I'd scattered my father's ashes, where I'd taught my daughter to fish, was now community property. I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed over the water. Karen's eyes narrowed. You'll comply, Tom, she said, or we'll make you. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about a pond. It was about everything I'd fought for, everything I'd built. I wasn't always a fighter. 20 years ago, I was just a guy with a desk job, dreaming of a place where I could breathe, away from the city's noise. When I bought this land, it was a patch of dirt and weeds. But I saw the pond in my mind before the first shovel hit the ground. I dug it myself, calluses forming with every swing. Stocked it with trout, planted willows along the bank. It wasn't just land. It was legacy. My daughter, Lily, grew up casting lines there, her laughter bouncing off the water. After my wife passed, it was where I found solace, where the world made sense again. The HOA, a small group managing our loose-knit rural neighborhood, had never bothered me before. They fussed over mailbox colors and lawn heights. But my pond, untouchable. Or so I thought. Karen arrived last spring, elected president after a campaign of promises to beautify and unify the community. I didn't vote. Didn't care. Until she showed up with her clipboard and her rules, claiming my pond for picnics and community fishing days. I told her to check the deed. She smirked, said the HOA's new bylaws trumped my paperwork. Eminent domain, she called it, misusing the term like a weapon. I went inside, my hands shaking, and pulled out the deed. Clear as day, private property. But Karen wasn't one for facts. That night, I sat on my porch, staring at the pond's dark surface, the moon rippling across it. Lily, now 16, sat beside me. What's she gonna do? Dad. Steal it? She asked, her voice half joking, half worried. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The next morning, I found a notice taped to my door, HOA assessment, pond maintenance fee. $500. Maintenance. For my pond. I tore it down, drove to the HOA officia rented room in the community center and demanded answers. Karen sat behind a desk, flanked by 2 board members, a nervous-looking guy named Steve and a woman, Margaret, who avoided my eyes. The pond's a shared resource now, Tom, Karen said, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. You'll pay? Or we'll lien your property? I leaned in, my voice low. You don't own it. You never will. Steve shifted uncomfortably, but Karen just leaned back, arms crossed, her smile a challenge. That's when I knew this was war. I wasn't naive. I knew HOAs could be bullies, but this was personal. I called a lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel who specialized in property disputes. She laughed when I told her the story. They're overreaching, she said. We'll bury them in court. But first, we needed evidence. I spent days digging through HOA records, public filings, anything I could get my hands on. The bylaws Karen cited. Vague, hastily amended, and questionably legal. The vote to claim my pond. Held in a closed meeting. No quorum. No notice. Rachel's eyes lit up when I showed her. This is gold, she said. But then came the twist. The one that hit like a punch to the gut. While combing through the HOA's financials, I found payments thousands of dollars to a landscaping company owned by Karen's brother. No bids. No contracts. Just checks. The pond wasn't just about control. It was about money. Karen was funneling HOA funds to her family, and my pond was her excuse to justify community projects. I sat back, stunned. This wasn't just a power grab. It was a scam. The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting. A cramped room packed with neighbors, most unaware of the storm brewing. I walked in with Rachel, my folder of evidence tucked under my arm. Karen presided like a queen, her voice booming about community unity. When my turn came, I stood, heart racing, and laid it all bare, the illegal vote, the bylaws, the payments to her brother. Gasps rippled through the room. Steve went pale. Margaret stared at the floor. Karen's face twisted, her voice rising. You're lying, Tom. This is slander. But I held up the financials, page after page of proof. The room erupted, neighbors shouting, demanding answers. Karen banged her gavel, but no one listened. Rachel stepped forward, calm as steel, and announced our lawsuit, not just to protect my pond, but to dissolve the HOA board entirely. The crowd went silent. Karen's eyes locked on mine. Pure venom. You'll regret this, she hissed. I didn't flinch. For the first time, I felt the tide turning. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal filings and tense standoffs. Karen didn't back down. She doubled down, rallying her loyalists with tales of my selfishness and anti-community attitude. Signs appeared around the neighborhood, "Save our pond," as if I was the one stealing it. Kids I didn't know started fishing in my pond, egged on by parents who believed Karen's lies. One evening, I caught a teenager spray painting community property on my dock. I didn't yell. I just handed him a rag and made him scrub it off. But inside, I was boiling. Rachel kept me grounded. Focus on the court date, she said. We've got them. But the pressure was relentless. Lily stopped going to the pond, said it didn't feel like ours anymore. That hurt more than anything. I'd built it for her. For us. And now it was a battleground. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should just let it go. But then I'd remember my father's ashes, scattered in that water, and my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about me. It was about what was right. The courtroom was small, packed with neighbors, the air thick with anticipation. Karen sat with her lawyer, a slick guy who looked like he charged by the syllable. Rachel presented our case with surgical precision: the deed, the bylaws, the financials. She called Steve to the stand, who crumbled under questioning, admitting the vote was rushed and unpublicized. Margaret, teary-eyed, confessed she'd gone along out of fear of Karen. The judge's face was unreadable, but I saw Karen's confidence falter. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claiming the HOA acted in good faith for the community. But Rachel was relentless, exposing every lie. Then came the bombshell. Rachel introduced a neighbor, Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman who'd lived here longer than anyone. She testified about Karen pressuring her to sign over her garden for community use. 2. The pattern was clear. Karen wasn't just after my pond, she was after control. Piece by piece. The courtroom buzzed. Karen's face went red, her hands gripping the table. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The ruling came fast. The judge declared the HOA's claim on my pond null and void, citing improper procedure and lack of authority. But we didn't stop there. Rachel pushed for dissolution, arguing the board's actions showed gross mismanagement. The judge agreed. The HOA board was dissolved, effective immediately, with an order for an independent audit of their finances. Karen's empire crumbled in that moment. She stormed out, muttering threats. But the room felt lighter, like a storm had passed. Neighbors approached me after, some apologizing, others just nodding, as if seeing me for the first time. I didn't gloat. I was tired, drained, but relieved. The pond was mine again. Legally. Undeniably. But the victory felt hollow. The fight had cost me months of peace, strained friendships, and left Lily wary of the place she once loved. I wondered if it was worth it. That night, I walked to the pond alone. The water was still, the trout moving lazily beneath. I thought of my father, my wife, the years I'd poured into this place. I realized the fight wasn't just about property, it was about standing up, about protecting what matters, no matter the cost. The next morning, I found Lily by the pond, her old fishing pole in hand. "It's ours again, right?" she asked, her voice soft. I nodded, my throat tight. "Always was," I said. We cast our lines together, the silence between us warm, healing. Neighbors started coming by, not to fight, but to talk, to rebuild what Karen's reign had broken. We formed a new, informal council, no bylaws, no power grabs, just people agreeing to look out for each other. The pond became a gathering spot again, but on my terms, for those I welcomed. I didn't need a courtroom to tell me what was mine. I just needed to remember why I fought. The sun set over the pond, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. I sat on the dock, Lily beside me, our lines bobbing in the water. The world felt right again, not because I'd won, but because I'd stood my ground. Life isn't about avoiding fights. It's about choosing the ones worth fighting for. And this won this pond. This legacy was worth every second.